Hey guys, today we're going to look at how do we solve square and cube root equations. So the very first example, the square root of x plus 25 equals 4. If we're looking at this, this is called like a radical equation because we have a variable inside of the radical and it's an equation. So I'm looking at this and I think, I could probably start by squaring both sides. So my first step is going to be to square both sides. In the most childish handwriting that you have. So, x plus 25, I'm going to square this side, equals 4, square that side. So, whenever I square a square root, the square root just goes away. I have x plus 25 equals 16. So, if I'm solving for x, I can just subtract 25 from each side. And get x equals negative 9. Okay, now before we accept that as our solution, we're going to check it. Okay, by just replacing x with negative 9. So, square root of negative 9 plus 25 equals 4. That's the square root of 16 equals 4. That's true. So it checks out. X equals negative 9 is my answer. Alright, so we're going to follow the exact same steps for this next problem. But we see that the cube root of 2x plus 7, well, it's not being square rooted, it's cube rooted. So to get rid of a cube root, we have to cube both sides. And so the reason that this works is, right now we have 2x plus 7, and it's being raised to the 1/3 power, right? So I'm just writing it in a different way than saying it's being cube rooted. So this is the original equation. And the reason that we cube both sides is because 1/3 times 3 is 1, so those cancel each other. So cubing cancels a cube root, and I'm left with 2x plus 7 equals 3 cubed. 3 cubed is 27. Now it's down to a linear equation. I can just solve. Subtract 7 from each side, I get 2x equals 20. If 2x equals 20, I divide by 2 to get x equals 10. Now, before I accept that as my answer, I'm going to check it. Okay, the cube root of 2 times 10 plus 7 equals 3. That's the cube root of 27 equals 3. Is that true?
Yes.
Yeah. So x equals 10. Alright, let's look at cube root of x minus 9 equals negative 1. Now, in the other ones, we went ahead and squared or cubed right off the bat. I can't do that here because I need to isolate this cube root. Okay? By isolate, I mean just get it by itself. So I need to get rid of this negative 9. How do I get rid of it? I'm going to add 9 to both sides. So now the cube root of x equals 8. Alright, to get rid of this cube root, I cube both sides. And I'm left with x equals 8 cubed, which is 512. Real quickly, I'll check myself. The cube root of 512 minus 9 equals negative 1. 8 minus 9 equals negative 1. Yeah, that works. So x equals 512 is my answer. Alright, in this example, we have 2 times the cube root of x minus 3 equals 4. I need to isolate the radical. Right now it's being multiplied by 2, so I'm going to divide both sides by 2. That way this 2 cancels this 2. Now I have the cube root of x minus 3 equals 2. Alright, now that the radical is isolated, how do I get rid of the cube root? I just cube both sides. A cube gets rid of a cube root. So I'm left with x minus 3 equals 2 cubed. 2 cubed is 8. I can add 3 to both sides. Get x equals 11. I quickly check myself. 2 times the cube root of 11 minus 3 equals 4. 2 times the cube root of 8 equals 4. Well, that's 2 times 2 equals 4. Yeah, that works.
So if the 2 could have gone into like some...
Alright, we're going to look at application problem. In a hurricane, the mean sustained wind velocity, v, in meters per second is given by v of p equals 6.3 times the square root of 1013 minus p, where p is the air pressure in millibars at the center of the hurricane. Estimate the air pressure at the center of the hurricane when the mean sustained wind velocity is 54.5 meters per second. Alright, well, let's look at what they gave us. They told me that I have the equation, and they just told me that the wind velocity is 54.5 meters per second. So, I can set up my equation. 54.5 equals 6.3 times the square root of 1013 minus p. Well, this looks a whole lot like the example that we just had. Just the numbers have decimals. If we look here, this square root is not isolated. It's being multiplied by 6.3. So we have to divide both sides by 6.3. Now this gives us about 8.65. So 8.65 is about equal, why can't I? There we go. Is about equal to the square root of 1013 minus p. So I'm solving for p. Estimate the air pressure. Now I've got the square root by itself. How do I knock the square root sign off? Well, I square both sides. So 8.65 squared. We would have just kept that number in our calculator so we didn't keep rounding. And this would come out to about 74.8. So that's about 1013 minus p. Alright, I'm solving for p. So my next step, I'm going to get p by itself by subtracting 1013 from each side. I've got negative 938.2 is about equal to negative p. Well, if negative 938.2 is equal to negative p, that means p is about equal to 938.2. You just change the signs of both sides. So now, since it's a word problem, I can't just give a number. I have to say what that represents. So I'm going to say p is about equal to 938.2 millibars. And we saw that in the problem, pressure in millibars. Okay, and that's all we're going to do for solving square root and cube root equations.